John Steiner had not ridden the subway in 11 years, and he wished it understood, by the turnstiles, by the sweating tiles, by Providence itself, that he did so now under strict protest. A man who ran a corporation worth some hundreds of millions did not belong among the strap-hangers. He belonged in the back seat of a town car, in the smell of new leather, behind a driver who knew when to keep quiet. But the town car had chosen this morning of all mornings to expire in the middle of 7th Avenue. The directors would not hold their meeting for a stalled engine, and so John Steiner, 42 and immaculate, found himself clutching a chrome pole in a rattling car of the downtown local, wearing the expression of a man who has stepped in something and cannot yet find a place to wipe his shoe. He was handsome and dressed to remind you of it. The suit was Italian, the shoes English, the cufflinks small and gold and quiet in the way that only costly things have learned to be quiet. And on his left wrist, winking at every flicker of the tunnel lights, rode a gold Rolex, the sort of watch a man buys not to learn the hour but to teach it to others. He stood apart, chin lifted, holding his pole as a duke might hold a scepter he found slightly grubby, when a young man in a windbreaker came shouldering down the aisle and stumbled hard against him. It was not the innocent lurch of a passenger caught by a curve. It was a practice thing, quick, soft, and it ended with John's wallet halfway into the stranger's sleeve. But John Steiner had grown rich by watching hands, and his own were faster than his tailoring suggested. He caught the wrist twisted and had the wallet back before the young man could draw a breath. What followed was not pretty. John struck him twice across the face and drove a heel into his knee, and the young man went down between the seats and stayed there, arms over his head, taking it. Up and down the car, the passengers watched with the particular stillness of people deciding, each of them, that this was not their affair. "Now," said John, breathing hard, smoothing his lapel, "I'm going to have you arrested. A few months in a cell will teach you the commandment about stealing." The young man did not fight. He did not even rise. He looked up out of a reddening face and said softly, "Hit me, sir. Go on, beat me to death. It would be a kindness." It was such an odd request that John's foot, already drawn back, lowered itself. "My whole crime," the young man said, "is that I'm poor and out of work, with a mother to feed and no way to feed her. She's a widow, sir, with a bad heart, and my little sister's blind. I had a steady job until last month, enough for the three of us, just enough, and then they let me go, me and 200 others, on account of the losses. I've looked everywhere since. Nobody hires a high school dropout in a year like this. Between the rent and the food and the school for my sister, the aid doesn't stretch. I tried begging. I'm no good at it." This, he nodded at the wallet in John's fist, was the only thing left that works. "I don't do it because I like it. I do it because they'll starve if I don't. If you mean to have me arrested, sir, I'd sooner you killed me. I couldn't have my mother learn her son's a thief. The shame would stop her heart before the winter did." Pity had never been among John Steiner's expenses. He held it to be a weakness, a soft place cunning men press to make fools open their purses. And yet something in the young man's voice found an old, disused door in him and leaned on it, and the door gave. "All right," John said. "I won't press charges." "Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir." "I won't press charges," John went on one condition. "Tomorrow you come to my office. I'll find you honest work in my company, a man who wants to feed his family that badly is a man I can use." The young man's eyes filled. "I don't know what to say. You've saved us. I'll pray for you every night of my life." John, who was not accustomed to being prayed for, felt a warmth spread through his chest that he could not at once identify. He drew a business card from his breast pocket and held it out. The young man received it in both hands, the way a poor parish receives a relic, and then he took John's hand and shook it warmly, gratefully, and at some length, pressing it between his two palms as though he could not bear to let a savior go. The train slowed, the brakes sighed. "This is my stop, sir. I'll be at your office first thing. Bless you." And he slipped in among the departing passengers and was gone into the crowd on the platform. John watched him go with a smile he had not worn in years. He had done a good thing. He tried to recall the last time he had done a good thing purely for its own sake, and found, a little to his surprise, that he could not. The doors closed. The train drew its breath and rolled on toward downtown. He was still composing the young man's future, the mailroom perhaps, and then who knew, when his phone buzzed against his ribs. His secretary wanting to know how much longer the directors were to be kept waiting. "Nearly there," John said, and lifted his left wrist to check the time. His wrist was bare. He looked at the floor. He looked along the seats where the scuffle had been, thinking the watch had shaken loose in the struggle. He looked in his pockets. He looked at last at his own empty hand, the hand that had been shaken so warmly, so gratefully, and at such length. "That humble little bastard," John Steiner announced, to a carful of strangers who were, once again, deciding this was not their affair, "took my Rolex.